We just had the final day of FNCS qualifiers, and I'm going to cover all the craziness. We had teams of cheaters getting invited to the finals instead of actual teams that qualified, like Mongraal and Savage. Despite this, we had some absolute massive pop-offs from teams like Mongraal, like King, like Clicks, who all managed to clutch up their qualification. Unfortunately, we also did have some massive names fall short, like Moneymaker. I'll cover who made grand finals and how, because it was a ridiculous day. So how did cheaters get invited to an FNCS final instead of teams that actually qualified? So in case you guys don't know the format, there was 2 heats that ran today. If you made it to the upper heat, you were able to play all of the games. If you didn't qualify in the first 3 games by getting top 25, you were eligible to drop down and play the lower bracket. There was also 3 games to try to get top 15. It's not as confusing as it sounded. A lot of the big teams popped off in these first 3 games. Aqua, Noah Riley, Seti and Cammy, Swizzy and Putrick, they all managed to qualify. But a lot of our big name teams like Mongraal, Savage, King and Phaser, Moneymaker and Fanayan, they weren't able to clutch it up in the first 3 games, so they went on to play the next 3. But there was a 45-minute break where the 25 teams that already qualified, their spots had to be given out to the teams from yesterday's lower brackets. But somehow, and again, follow me here, I know it sounds confusing, basically when you go into that tournament, Epic has what they assign a token to your character. Essentially, it's just basically a label. But unfortunately, instead of making the label so that any team that had been previously disqualified for cheating couldn't play, they made it they could play. So a bunch of random teams who cheated in FNCS, who had never played a tournament before, managed to get in and take the spot of teams like Mongraal and Savage. The whole community freaked out. Mongraal and Savage were sitting on over 150,000 combined viewers. The Fortnite Twitch chat was getting spammed with restart the tournament. For whatever reason, Fortnite waited until that entire game finished to then tweet out announcing they made a mistake and they were going to rerun the game. Then all of these pros managed to queue into the next game, which they then realized didn't count, and then had to wait for the first actual game to start. So Epic somehow invited cheaters instead of the teams that qualified. Despite all of this and the delay, the first game ended up running. Everyone jumped in with high spirits, and none other than Mongraal and Savage clutched up. Now remember, they have 3 games to get top 15, which is roughly around 95 points. They managed to pull off an 8 elimination win in their first game, and I know you know their reactions were going to be ridiculous.
Everybody else other than Savage is towards the backside of zone, continuing to slide down, but there's no builds, can't protect himself. Roban's gonna be the first one trying to challenge him on that high ground. Gavix is second. Grapple Blade is gonna be used by Savage and go up and over to stay alive.
Savage, are you kidding me right now? He continues to climb as there's just 1 player left in the zone, healing off. And it looks like if Savage can stay up, it's Teeny. 1 Grapple Blade, 2.
Baby.
Let's go! The perfect script!
We are the
The perfect script!
script.
Let's go!
We are the greatest. I just broke my headset too, bro.
Yes, you did see that correctly. Mr. Savage actually threw his headphones against the table and broke them in celebration. And this wouldn't be a big deal if they'd already qualified. The 8 elim win was hype, but it wasn't guaranteed qualification. They were going to need to get around 100 points to be safe of qualifying, and they weren't there yet. And in the next 2 games, they managed to die on spawn in both of them because they were contested by 2 separate teams. They managed to pick up 2 elims in one of them, and luckily for them, they just clutched up the qualification, finishing in 12th place when they needed a top 15 to qualify. Nerves were high. They had hundreds of thousands of viewers the whole time cheering them on. Everyone got behind them, and Mongraal and Savage are officially in grand finals. Mongraal is now qualified for his first grand final since Chapter 2 Season 4 when he won FNCS. That is over 3 years ago. This performance by both of them was insane. I know what you're thinking, oh, Savage carried him. Yes, Savage is in his prime right now, but Mongraal played extremely well in that 8 elimination win. He picked up 4 of their 8 kills, despite Savage being the one who actually got the win as a solo by getting up the mountain. Mongraal got big refreshes and really clutched up, so I don't want to hear he got carried in that game. I will point out as well, I know some haters are going to say, oh, well, why did it come down to lower bracket? If they were good enough, they would have done it before that. It's because they were going down to clips like this.
Come here. Come.
Get in.
I'm not in.
What the
I can't see anything. I'm dead. He's below you. He's in your box now on the phone.
Again, all of the players playing were dealing with this level of lag. It wasn't just Mongraal and Savage, but it's worth pointing out that some of the players just didn't work because the servers just wouldn't allow it. But the excitement wasn't over just yet. One of the other biggest teams on the region, King and FaZe, stepped into the spotlight after only just qualifying yesterday by a single point to even keep the FNCS dream alive, and they won game 2. They clutched up massively, popped off in game number 2 with a 6 elim win, which also secured their qualification. So 2 games of the 3 we had our massive teams through, and it all came down to the last big team, Moneymaker and Finay. And again, if you've been following content at all on TikTok, YouTube, you now know who Moneymaker is. But in case you don't know, he is a Swedish controller GOAT who has popped off massively in the last couple of months on social media. Everyone was cheering him on, and unfortunately, he didn't get across the line. He died early in the last game, finishing in 48th place overall. We almost had the perfect script for EU FNCS. NA wasn't quite as exciting as EU, not because the gameplay wasn't good. There wasn't really any crazy glitches. They actually managed to make the tournament work properly. We had most of the big teams go through in the first heat in those first 3 games. Clix's team, Kanada's team, Acorn's team, Rise's team, Reed's team, all those big teams that somehow had struggled in the previous qualifiers did all manage to clutch up in that first heat. We did, however, go into the lower bracket with the big team, Oliver OG and Asian Jeff, with qualification still on the line, and they managed to clutch it up, almost completing the perfect script. If we could have got Moneymaker into the finals, it honestly would have been massive. I've got to give a specific huge shout out to Jiven as well. Jiven and Piggle qualifying for the grand finals, not from lower bracket, from upper bracket. Jiven and Piggle managed to make upper bracket yesterday, stay in upper bracket, and then qualify out of upper bracket. Such an impressive performance from a content creator, and paired up with Piggle, who maybe you guys haven't heard of. He's very well known on the console scene. He is playing on a PC now with a controller, but this is his first grand finals as well. So it wasn't like Jiven got carried by a tier 1 pro. They both played so well. There was, however, one big name missing, Bucky. And in case you guys have seen it yesterday in the qualifiers, Bucky didn't even make it to the semifinals last day because he went down in a trade in a 1v2. Okas died, Bucky then won this 1v2, but he died at the exact same time as the opponent. It's what we call a trade. It's happening a lot more this season, mostly because the servers are lagging, but also because there is now bullet travel time on all of the guns, making that desync between the servers a lot higher. So he went down and he didn't get the 10 points he should have got for these 2 eliminations and the placement. If he got those 10 points, he would have qualified to the semifinals. If you even went on to Fortnite tracker, it actually showed that he died after the players that he killed, which means he should have got the points. Unfortunately, no matter what he did on social media, he even tried to go and witch hunt and find a bunch of players cheating above him to try to make his way into semifinals, but Epic didn't listen, they didn't care, and Bucky didn't make the next day of semifinals, so Bucky is unfortunately out of FNCS. It was an absolutely crazy day of content, and I am extremely excited for grand finals next weekend.